Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining our Architecture and Construction webinar this evening. My name's Natalie and I'm hosting tonight's session. Before we begin today, I would like to acknowledge the traditional Aboriginal owners, the Pambalong clan of the Awabakal Nation, on which the main University of Newcastle campus Callaghan is located. I would also like to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land on which you are zooming in from today and pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. So I'd now like to go through some housekeeping and webinar etiquette. All attendees are currently muted, so we cannot hear you. However, once the Q&A starts, we would love to hear your questions. To send a question, you'll need to click down the bottom of your screen on the Q&A button, and you'll be able to type your question there. Helen and Katie will be able to answer your questions at the end of the presentation. If we happen to run out of time, we'll send out a full list of questions and answers with the recording of this webinar later this week. So I'll now introduce our speaker tonight. Dr. Helen Giggins is a senior lecturer and the deputy head of school for the School of Architecture and Built Environment. We're also joined by domestic conversion officer Katie McMillan, who will be available to support with questions. So thank you for joining us tonight, Helen. Take it away when you're ready.
Thank you and welcome. As Natalie said, my name's Helen and I have been within this school for about 15 years now. I'll go through a couple of slides and then we'll open it up for questions that you might have. So I'll go through both of our main undergraduate degrees here. So the first one being the Bachelor of Design Architecture. So this is a 3-year full-time program. And its location is the Callaghan campus, Newcastle. Not the inner city, but the kind of outer campus. And we have intakes in this in both SEM 1 and SEM 2. So this is the reason I'm highlighting that as well is that if you felt that you weren't ready to commence the program in a few weeks, you could actually defer until the second semester and start mid-year as well. The other main program we have at the undergraduate level in our school is the Bachelor of Construction Management. This is an embedded honours program. So it's a 4-year full-time program because of that honours component. And it is also offered at Callaghan, but also fully online. And we do have a Singapore option as well, which is probably not going to be as relevant to you, but just wanted to flag that. And again, intakes but in both semesters, so you can start mid-year if that's more convenient for you. In terms of the scholarships, so the university is offering a lot of various scholarships. I didn't put specific ones here because there's going to be slightly different ones depending on your background, whether you have equity, diversity, criteria, etc. But there's a link there to scholarships, and it has a really great feature that you can put some keywords in to browse the various scholarships available. And there is some really good options for scholarships for students commencing and continuing within the degrees. The other thing I just wanted to highlight is that the changed academic calendar this year, which has brought forward some of those key dates, or actually brought forward the commencement of semester 1, but also delaying the start slightly of semester 2, and that's in part at least to align them to our trimesters. So I know that's been somewhat challenging for some students starting a little bit earlier, but just wanted to highlight that. So in terms of what you would study within the 2 degrees, just we'll highlight this briefly. So one of the key features of the design architecture program is the embedded core studio projects that run, or studio subjects, I should say, that are 20 units. So they're double a standard course size. And you have each of those in each term of the 3 years. And they're scaffolded by the courses that help to deliver those specialist skills and knowledge. And that's a really a unique experience at Newcastle because of our studio building and that on-campus experience. It's a really great environment to be learning architecture in and learning that design architecture. And then you might pick up when I show you the next program that there is actually some of the courses here are shared amongst the the architecture and construction management. And the reason for that is their kind of core skills that are required for both degrees. And it's really great that those students get to interact in those classes. So the bachelor, sorry, construction management, sorry for the slightly different formatting, but you'll see that again, some of those courses that overlap, but you've got the scaffolded courses across your 4 years. And then in the final year as well, you've got a major research kind of course, a 20-unit research component which counts significantly towards that level of honours and your embedded honours. If you're not sure what honours is about, I'm happy to answer any questions about that at the end as well. So the main thing I wanted to highlight tonight is why you would choose, obviously, the fact that you have an offer into either of these degrees. You've decided that perhaps architecture or construction management are for you, but why pick Newcastle? Why pick SABE as we badge ourselves? So special projects is something that's really, really great and somewhat unique for students studying in both the bachelor programs, in that as an elective, you can do what's referred to as a special project. And these are 10-unit courses that get offered with different experiences every year. And there's almost like a ballot where students put in which ones they'd like to do and then get assigned to that. But it can mean an experience both overseas. So these are some of the recent ones that we've run. One of our lecturers, Arena, has done stuff over in Costa Rica, taking a group of students there and looking at, climate elements of architecture. Uh, the again, this is one of the ones I think in Spain with Maria, another one of our lecturers in architecture. We've had earth building, so they're not all overseas. We've got Sarah running some stuff on the Central Coast with, very practical studio project where you get to actually build like a rammed earth kind of home and see like what mud brick building looks like, getting your hands actually dirty, a bit closer to home. Another great feature of particularly the architecture degrees, so most years at the end of the year, students will have an exhibition of their work, and that allows not only for you to bring family and friends in to showcase your work, but also they attract a lot of people from industry and the studio, the practices that will come in to see student works. And it's often where students will pick up job opportunities, especially in their latter years, particularly when they go into the master's program. So it's an important part of the learning and sharing your work, but also being able to exhibit your work to the general public and to the broader community, as well as your family and friends. And this is again, actually, this is a great photo because it shows you the actual studio, the architecture studio, or at least part of that space. And you'll see that if you look in the top kind of left corner here, these spaces in the background are actually some of the areas where students have dedicated desks to work during the semester and have, almost 24/7 access to that building. There's also been in the past live projects, so where we get approached with industry to get live engagement from students in real life projects. So they might have a project they're running, and they'll sometimes even run it almost like a competition for students to submit their briefs for work to get, the opportunity to maybe be picked to actually have their design used in a real world project. We also have our visiting architects and experts, which allows us to bring in, different experts from not only within Australia, but also overseas to share their knowledge through classes and sometimes through the workshops and actual critiques of students' work, again, to get that broader experience and just within the school itself. We have a great set of social and community activities at regular events such as barbecues, networking events, and really try and foster a great sense of community within the students in the school. Also, we do a lot of work on Instagram to share student work and what's happening within the school. So if you're interested in that, there's a QR code there to link up to us on Instagram. If you can't get the QR code to work, I've also got a link I can post in the chat at the end if that's of interest to you. So coming back for a moment to more the construction management side of the school, one of the great things about construction management is the diversity of opportunities you have for the different career paths. So these are just some of the examples of people that come in and work with us to deliver things like guest lectures, but you can see there the diversity of different roles that you can take once you graduate as well. And we have some really great industry partnerships with local and international firms that, different tiered construction companies that will come in. We have an event usually runs twice a year where we have industry people come in at a kind of barbecue event to meet students and allow you to interact and engage with them to network. And we also are really proud of the level of accreditation of our degree. It's the most accredited program in the state, and I think almost probably in the country. The one I'll draw particular attention to is the Institute of Building Surveying. So being able to be a building surveyor is a highly sought after aspect to the profession and one of the few degrees that has that full accreditation for building surveying. We pride ourselves as well on trying to bring in, new technologies within the construction sector. Actually, the one thing I did forget to showcase in these slides is our VR lab that we've got situated at Callaghan that also allows students to access the VR equipment. And we've got things like virtual concrete, building information modeling, various different quantity surveying softwares as well, access through partnerships with industry. So that students can really get hands-on experience of what it's like to be working on real life projects like they would be in industry. In terms of career opportunities, there's some really great employability opportunities in both degrees. You'll see that 86.1% of our students were employed within 4 months of graduating in some of the most recent surveying. The 71,000 median starting salary, that's also averaged across the two disciplines. It is probably slightly higher actually in the construction management cohort than in the architecture commencing straight out of their degree. But it definitely, if you look at some of the starting salaries for other industries, it is quite high, and especially that employability rate is very high. And these professions are really sought after within not only locally but internationally, and the accreditations allow you to travel overseas with your qualification as well when you do complete your degree. I've jumped through that pretty quickly. I hope that's okay, Natalie. Might open up now to Q&A because I really wanted to get through so I can give people the opportunity to ask the questions they might have, which is probably why they've come along tonight.
Thanks, Helen. So yeah, we'll now start the Q&A part of the session. Really great opportunity to ask any questions that you have. So if you have a question, please type it in the Q&A box down the bottom of your screen and we'll answer these live for you. So anything, you've got any questions about the program specifically or any questions regarding enrolment as well, we're able to help with that at this moment too. So I'll just give it a couple of minutes. Oh, we've already got, oh,
Oh,
here
that's
we go
quick.
from Lisa. Excellent. So is there access to a 3D printer and or laser cutter?
Both, yes. So we have two facilities directly kind of linked up to the studio, which is we've got a workshop which has access to quite a lot of equipment, but we have a new prototyping facility as well that has access to 3D printing and laser cutting. So both of those facilities, yeah. We
Thank
also
you.
have Makerspace, which is like kind of gives you lower WHS access to Things like just having access to a drill, a hammer, a glue gun, just for model making and workshopping, that kind of thing as well. So lots of those facilities, yeah.
Thank you. And another question here from
Yep.
Lauren. So, what do classes actually look like week to week in the first year, and how does that structure change as students move
Yeah.
through the
Can I
course?
get an idea, Lauren, which degree? Because it does differ between the two programs. Or actually, I might give both. So in architecture, because it's a fully on-campus program, it is very much focused around those studio courses, and then you'll do other subjects. But it is quite a similar format across the full 3 years with that, large or larger component 20-unit course each term. It's the studio, and you would do studio tutorials. Each week. Often what they try and do is have that all on the one day. So, try and have, all the first year on a certain time, for example. With the other courses that are shared across both CM and architecture, in first year, they're generally every week. You'll have a class. Quite often, it's more of a what we call lectorial format. So, a bit like a lecture and tutorial in the one session. So, it's not like the traditional, really small tutorial classes very often. I think the only one that bucks that trend is probably the drawing class in architecture. And then often as you move through, particularly in construction management, as we get more to second, third, fourth year, we go to a model where it's often less face-to-face or less often. So you might have more, say, 4 or 5 workshops, 2 or 3 hour workshops across the term, and then a lot more is delivered self-directed and self-paced in that kind of online or learning management system Canvas environment. So the reason we do that is we acknowledge that for particularly construction management, a lot of our students get cadetships or jobs after their first year, and it makes it much easier for them to study and work alongside in the sector at the same time. And we've found that's worked really well for many of our students. Does that help to answer your question, Lauren?
Thank
If you've
you.
got a follow-up, please post it.
So we've got here, what are the options of locations for studying abroad within the architecture course? How long will students typically study away for?
So is this the kind of slides I showed? Is that in reference to the slides I showed before? So they're actually more what a single course that's an intensive. They're usually a 2 week intensive. So they're usually scheduled to be outside of the standard course structure. So often in that mid-year session, or might be over the summer period. And so you're not kind of being disrupted from your normal study. And yeah, there's an option. I think you can do 1 or 2 of those in the undergrad, and then often it's more than one in the masters with those. So there is only a certain number of them you can do, but it's at least one, I believe, in the undergrad with those. But you can also do a formal study abroad. So I should make it clear they're not study abroad. They're actually just a course that is run potentially overseas in an intensive mode, but there is also an option to do study abroad in any degree where you can choose to take a semester and go and if you get that approved to go and study at another institution and hopefully have that credit back to your degree here.
Do you have a couple of examples of the locations maybe that
In terms of the studio projects or
well just yeah, and the question, what are the options of locations? I guess do we have any examples of where the students have gone?
oh God, in terms of study abroad, it can be just about anywhere. So I know for CM, I used to approve a lot, say in the US, but architecture, it's probably often more Europe. You can go Asia. It's really just as far as your imagination can take you almost with study abroad.
Lots of options.
Lots of options, yeah. So how do architecture study abroad programs fit in the demand? Yeah, so this is I think the point there, Lauren, is that you do those outside of the normal term so that it doesn't impact on your actual demands of the studio work. So they would usually sit either in that summer break or in the mid-year break so that you do like a couple of weeks, you go and do that actual experience for a few weeks, and then it might just be that when you get back, you do an exhibition or a bit of a way of presenting the work that you learnt to be assessed, but the majority of those experiences in those studio project courses happen in that 2 week intensive so that it's not impacting on your actual your main undergraduate study.
Thank you. Um, so we've still got a bit of time if there were any more questions to
Hmm.
come through. So we've got another one here. Could you walk us through the application process and for early entry and what factors are usually considered when decisions are made? I don't know how much of that you can speak to, Helen.
Probably that's something better answered by Katie, is it? Katie?
Yeah, if you wanted to, I'll answer that one for you, Katie. But if
Yeah,
you wouldn't mind just
great.
popping an answer, in the background, just a brief run through, that would be amazing. Thank you. So Katie's typing an answer there for you.
Excellent. Yeah. I usually deal with the students once they're in the degree, less when they're actually applying.
Um, so are there any other questions while Katie is typing an answer in there for you? Just give it a couple more minutes. Does sound like we've got most attendees interested in architecture.
Hmm.
Oh, here we go. So when you look at students who thrive in architecture long term, what mindset or habit do they have early on that others don't?
I'm going to answer that question less so about architecture, but more about undergraduate or students at university generally. It's less about things like ATAR. It's about resilience and grit and perseverance. I think when you're at university, but there's obviously also that design sensibility within architecture. Um, but I think elements of that can definitely be taught. What we can't necessarily teach is how you're going to deal with, the different pressures and the things that can crop up. So having a level of resilience and capacity to adjust and change and not be too fixed in your mindset, I think is important, I would say. But I don't think there's also a cookie cutter way to say this is what makes a great architect because there's so many different things that you can bring to it in your individual personality. But I know for me, doing research into education, that there is a lot of evidence that having good, what we term self-efficacy as well, which is really understanding your own limitations and knowing what your skills are in a certain area. Like, for example, I know I'm good at lecturing, but if you ask me to fly a 747, I'm going to tell you pretty flat out that I'd be pretty crap at that or bad at it. So I think understanding where your skills lie as well and being able to judge that is also really important as a student. And having a lifelong passion for learning and just inquiry, I think, is really important. Have an inquiring mind. Hope that
Thank
helps
you.
to answer your question.
Thank you. Um, so Katie's answered that other question in there, which is
Great.
great. And we do have further information on the website as well. There's an
Mm,
early entry page there if you needed further
yeah.
information on that. I'll just give it another minute if we've got
Hmm.
any other questions. Um,
The other thing I should say is if anyone had any, because I don't actually teach architecture, although I sit in the school, that's not my discipline. So if you did have questions that you really wanted to talk to one of the architecture lecturers, feel free to reach out or let us know and I can put them in touch with you as well directly to answer any of those specific questions about studio and that kind of side of things.
oh, here we go. We've got Lauren, a question. What's the hardest adjustment for students coming straight from school into the studio culture?
Ah, I think, again, one of the things that I see, you need to be prepared to ask for help when you need it. As an undergraduate student, like in school, eh, because the class size is so small and teachers get to know you so well, sometimes they'll pick up on when something's not going right with you, or when, they'll often be asking you if you need. We don't always have the capacity with the class sizes we have and getting to know students that we'll know exactly when you're floundering or when you don't know something. So being willing to step up and put your hand up and say, you know what, I don't get what's going on here, or I need help, I'm not quite sure what I'm doing. I think being your own self-advocate and asking for help when you need it is really critical. That's probably very different from high school, I think.
Great answer. Another question here. Researching courses online, I've seen many architecture students consider themselves to be the most sleep deprived. Can you speak to any truth in that architecture requires longer hours of
You
work
know
compared to other
what? I
courses?
think sometimes that's self-imposed. I think sometimes they can get, and this can be the problem of having a 24/7 access to a building, is that it can, and the competitive nature of students is that sometimes they feel like they have to be putting in, ridiculously long hours to succeed. And the truth is you don't. If you're clever about how you study and prepare in advance, I don't know that that is necessary. But it's always hard to get away from that when it gets embedded in a group of students, is the truth. So I think that's the challenge of having access to that sort of space, is that sometimes it will, students almost like, oh, I'm going to be there at 10 o'clock at night. And you think, oh, well, I have to be there at 10 o'clock at night as well. And you don't have to necessarily. It's a bit like that peer pressure. You don't always have to give in to the peer pressure.
Thank you. Do you recommend any subjects for year 11 and 12? I guess that depends on if we're talking about construction or
Yeah, it depends. But
design.
certainly any technical drawing I think is useful to both. Being able to read and draw any kind of construction plans is very relevant to both degrees. Any sort of design components, just basic maths, English, all of those sorts of skills. But I don't think we have too many specific courses that are super critical. It's not like engineering where you have to do, the highest level of maths and physics and those kinds of things. That's one of the advantages of these degrees, actually.
Thank you. Um, just give it another minute in case we've got any more coming
Mhm.
through. Would you recommend geography for architecture?
Geography is great for life. I don't know. God, I have to be honest and say I don't know what's in geography these days in high school. Um, but yeah, that's when I'd have to defer to someone else,
Yeah,
actually. Certainly doesn't hurt to know the world and know, educate yourself about different styles of buildings around the world and architecture history, that kind of thing, that's for sure.
thank you. Were there any more to come through? Just give it a sec.
Yeah, I'm happy to stay here for a bit longer.
I think it has been a really insightful though. We've had some good questions
Hmm.
here.
Been very impressed with the questions.
Looks like that might be everything. Um, yeah, I think, oh, here we
Oh,
go.
here we go. Now, give people time to type. It takes a while to type.
What strategies do you
Encourage.
use to encourage students to form a strong design voice early on instead of designing for approval for architecture?
Wow. You give some great questions, Lauren. So I think part of it is about, so there's a really important process within architecture, which is the critique, or the crit, as they call it, which is embedded into both the tutorial component, but also your final kind of presentations of your work at the end of each term, is that you need to be prepared to hear the feedback that you're given, and take that on board, but also be prepared in a way to defend your design process, and not kind of fall into that trap of being a bit cookie cutter and thinking, well, this is what I see everyone else do, so that's what I have to do to succeed. But I think you also need to be prepared to take, constructive criticism when you have it as well. It's a really important part of being an architect. is that self-reflection and reflective nature and reflexive nature of the work is really important, I think.
Yeah. I'll give it another couple of minutes in case we've got any
Yeah.
more too. Yeah. Mm,
Or maybe even letting us know, Lauren, if you finish with questions.
yeah. Got Lauren and Justin still on the line.
Did you have anything to ask Justin at all? Oh, I just had, is it Sarah's jump in?
Yes, jump back in.
Hmm. So there is, I just put out that final slide. So I guess if there's no further questions that come in, there is also the future students. I might,
Final question here
final
from Lauren as
question.
well.
What do they go off to do? So many, I mean, I think for a lot of students, the pinnacle would be to work in a architectural firm, but there is other opportunities. Um, Actually, one of the great opportunities is even to do like looking at a double degree where maybe doing design architecture and then construction management, or going on, for example, to do something like our disaster risk and resilience degree, giving you opportunities to step into fields that sit outside of traditional architecture as well. Things like being a design manager within a construction firm, or even taking that design knowledge and sensibility and then going into more of a construction management focus, because you have that great ability to be able to communicate to the different parts of the team really well. And some of our really successful graduates have actually done that combination of design architecture and then CM in their career and found that they really were able to get ahead. But again, I'm trying to think, there were some slides. I probably should have put the slide that they had from the other pack that you had, Natalie, because I think they talked in there about the different career options for the architecture.
Yeah, we do. I think we do have a couple listed on the website, but yeah, happy if you wanted to reach
Hmm.
out, we're happy to have a look further into it for you as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that answers the last question.
Mhm.
Did you have anything else to add, Helen, or?
No, I don't think so. I just think, if you have those kind of very specific questions, happy to as well connect people with somebody that they could even have a bit of a conversation or come into campus, if particularly if you're local to the area. You could come in and actually look at the studio, look at our spaces and talk to staff. With classes starting in 2 weeks, we've got, the staff are all around and happy to, connect you up. So even if you use that future student support, you could email and say, can you connect me with somebody in the school? I would like to do a tour or like to talk to anyone about those sort of very specific questions about particularly the design architecture. I can put you in touch with someone.
Thanks so much. And thank you for your time as well. I think it's been really
Hmm.
insightful. Thank you, Lauren. Thank you for the great questions too.
Yeah, thank you. Great questions. Some of the best I've seen in one of these sessions.
Yeah,
I
definitely.
think you do well, Lauren, if you come in. That's the kind of thing that you need to be as a student, being willing to put your hand up and ask questions like that.
That's right. Alrighty, well, thank you again. And yeah, we will send out the recording of this webinar as well, but hopefully
Mm,
we see you at the University of Newcastle soon.
thanks.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.